The topic that received the most attention was confusion and some frustration regarding Elon's bias report system. So, to address those concerns, I'm joined today by Vice President for Student Life, John Dooley, and Leanne Royster, Director of the Center for Equity and Inclusive Excellence. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Dr. Royster, let's begin with you. You oversee the bias response system. Could you describe the purpose of the system and the process that is used to respond once a report is received?
Sure. The system really has two purposes. Our main intention with the system was to make sure that we're capturing what happens across time, right? We want to know what the members of our community are experiencing. And we want to know if we should be changing policy or practice or using resources differently to make sure that our community is a welcoming space. So part of what the system does is give us data about what folks are experiencing within our community. Another part of the system is that we want to be able to respond when incidents do happen that are harming our community. So we want to know when something went wrong, and we want to be able to take that seriously and do the work that we need to do to transform the harm into what we can in moving forward with education and awareness. So once we get a report, a number of people receive the report, including the Center for Equity and Inclusive Excellence, and that report is reviewed for all of the things that we have possible at our disposal in the community to take it seriously. We review every report we get. We take into account everything that's going on in the report and what we have available to us: student conduct, human resources, all of these avenues that are available to address the incident that has been reported. We receive in any given year between 50 and 100 reports around bias and bigotry and prejudice that is happening on campus. And we work diligently to take all of those reports seriously and worked with the folks harmed in the instance to produce an outcome that will help us move forward as a community.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Royster, for explaining the purpose and the process for the system.
Certainly.
Yeah, I want to shift now to you, Dr. Dooley. How does the university respond to comments or actions that violate the Student Code of Conduct prohibitions against bias-related conduct?
Yeah, and Dr. Royster mentioned this, but the student conduct is just one way that we are able to intervene in a situation. But obviously in our student conduct code, we have policies around behaviors like bullying, discrimination, harassment. Since 2015, we've had a policy on bias-related conduct about comments or behavior that's directed towards someone that's intimidating or hostile, and it's based on actual perceived identities. So we have prohibitions that we're able to point to and we're able to use. When those reports are referred to the Office of Student Conduct, there are professionals there who review them, they'll investigate them, they'll assign them to a hearing officer or a hearing board, and they really take a look at all of the whole nature of what might have happened in that situation. And they're ultimately determining whether or not an individual is found responsible for violating that student conduct code. If they are, then they'll assign outcomes. And the outcomes that are assigned in a student conduct case usually involve some kind of disciplinary status, which would be, for example, being on university probation or a suspension. They will usually involve some kind of educational intervention, reflective component to them. And sometimes they can also include removal from student organizations or restriction on privileges, relocation of housing. Those kinds of things are possible outcomes that might come from something like this. There's a lot of mystery around what happens in the student conduct process, and in part, that's because there are federal laws that protect the privacy of student records. And that includes conduct records. And that makes it really challenging for the university to be able to talk about all of the things that happen in a student conduct situation, or when folks in the community want to know specifically what happened in a specific situation, we may not be in a position to be able to share all that information. One of the things that we've been using increasingly recently related to bias incidents is restorative practices. And so think about like dialogue circles or other kinds of experiences that might bring together a student responsible for a behavior and those who are affected by that behavior in a mediated process. And that has shown to have some positive impact for everyone involved in a particular situation. So hopefully this gives a little bit of a sense of what happens in a student conduct process. But it is important to remember that it's just one way that Dr. Royster and the team have when they are addressing bias incidents that might occur on campus.
Great, thank you. And I appreciate you addressing the comprehensive nature of the student conduct process that includes a continuum of education all the way to punitive actions as well. So that's really important to share. Thank you, Dr. Dooley. Dr. Royster, I have a question for you. Do you anticipate any changes in the bias response system in the year ahead? And what are your thoughts about increasing awareness and confidence in the system?
Yeah, 100%. I met with some students over the last week who were sharing frustrations and concerns about the bias response system. And I said to them, I'm on board. Like, I want to sign your petition. I want us to work together to enhance the system and be responsive to the needs of our community. So I absolutely anticipate enhancements and changes to the system in the coming years. I think we're in a particular time and energy in our culture, and our students and faculty and staff are fully aware of that. And so I think that it is critical that we take this moment to listen, to think about the ways that we communicate, to think about, while Dr. Dooley referenced some very real barriers to communication, there are also ways that we can increase communication, right? And increase participation and dialogue around the system. And I hope to see some of those things happen. In addition, I want more people speaking out. So I think while we, are working to develop trust, the best way that we can do that is to get a lot of participation and work happening together so that folks are clearer about what the processes are. There are many things that I could have shared in this small conversation that we're having here. And so I think this is just my invitation for folks to continue this conversation so that we can begin to share some of that information. So my short answer to you, Dr. Williams, is yes. I absolutely anticipate enhancements, and we're already in the works with some folks on campus and students and faculty and staff members about what those most pertinent enhancements can be. And I feel confident that we can work to build better trust within the system.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Royster. We look forward to working with you as well as you lead us in this area, and so happy to hear you're engaging so many different voices in the process to be responsive to the community's needs and desires for this system.
Certainly.
Thank you also, Dr. Dooley, for your participation and your time for responding to some questions. As we continue these dialogues, we will try to address concerns we are hearing from our community. So if you have a question or a comment, please use the form on the Today at Elon page contained in this video, or post your question on the Facebook broadcast of this dialogue. We appreciate your engagement on these important topics. Thank you.